Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. I mean, everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous. From presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I am extremely proud to introduce you to Frank Ewing, founder and member of A Better World Enterprises, who was taught from a very young age to focus his career on how to make the world a better place, giving others the opportunity to live better also. Frank, such a wonderful mission driven, long term professional career. Why don't we start with the basics? What is the mission of Better World Enterprises?
Well, to do as much as we can, my wife and we encourage others, let's, work to make the world a better place in whatever big and small way you can. Every way, everywhere from, saying thank you, holding a door from someone, and in our case, providing a home for people, many people who could otherwise not afford to have a decent place to live. And that's so important today across the world for that matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And sir, I know that you've had a number of professions. You've had a career in photography and then later marketing. And then you went into real estate. What made you want to pursue real estate?
Well, I was a photographer for many years. I was published in the New York Times for about 7 years. I worked for Backrack in New York. They photographed every president since Abraham Lincoln. I was the last apprentice with one other guy named Frank, ironically, who went on with it and does covers of Architectural Digest and so forth. And I realized after a time of doing that this was very interesting. It was a lot of fun in many ways, but I need to do something else that's going to make a difference in people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And I met my wife, and we talked about how do you make it a better world. My father and mother were both World War II veterans. I'll put it this way. My father was in a tank in the Battle of the Bulge and was put in charge of resettling refugees in Austria after the war. My mother was a war correspondent in World War II. And she later worked for CARE, became a member of the UN, and helped people in Afghanistan and all over the world. And my brother and I were both raised. I can hear my dad saying, "So what do you kids think you're here for?" And you knew he didn't mean to go out and party or make a bunch of money or whatever. And we came to the conclusion, well, we're all here to make it a little better place. The world's got a lot of issues. And after meeting my wife, we had discussed this extensively. And on 9/11, we were in New York, and we're both pilots too. And we saw a squadron of F-16 starting to circle the city. And I thought, we're at war. We need to get out of here. And we left, and driving down the New Jersey Turnpike, saw the remnants of the World Trade Center smoldering, and came to Tennessee. My middle name is Crockett. My mother's from Nashville, and she had her parents living in Jackson, Tennessee. And unfortunately, she had died just a few months earlier, but I inherited the home. And we discussed it. We said, maybe we should start our Better World project right here. And I discovered West Tennessee was the bankruptcy capital of the country at the time. And there were a lot of problems that we felt we could address by providing homes that we would not, unless we would live in them ourselves with our own kids, we wouldn't rent them to anybody else unless they were, we would go there ourselves, whether it was in closer to the hood, so to speak, or higher end areas. And that's how we started our project. And so many here said, "Oh, you're going to fail. It's never going to work." And non-smoking, you're all vegans, plant-based dieting. We're into the martial arts. Our whole family are black belts. So fitness, health, all those good things, non-smoking, those are the habits we try to foster with people that come to work, live with us. And anyway, that's how we started.
Let me drill down a little bit. Tell me how you intend to create a better world through your company, as the title implies.
Well, I'm working on, with my wife, a manual, if you will, book that shows others how to do exactly what we do. And that'll be online, I hope, within the next couple of months. And we are encouraging others to do what we do. And so many people want to just make money. And I find most seem to have it backwards. I said, you've got to do something, you've got to do good. And you can do well by doing good, as my wife often says. And I mean financially too. Quit thinking about the money so much. I mean, don't forget about it. That's very important. But work to serve. If you serve the community and you treat people right, regardless of anything, disability, race, or anything else, you truly treat people right, the money will come and you'll do well. And we've proven that. We started with one home here, and today there's roughly 100 properties with a valuation. If you were to sell the whole thing out as a business, you'd probably ask for about 10 million, something like that. So here comes a guy from New York. We're from the Northeast. We come to a place, really didn't know anybody to speak of, but we just started treating people right and got this one property and then leveraged that into the next and the next and the next.
Yeah, you are living proof that if you live your life and operate your business with integrity and ethics, the success can come. Normally I would just ask you how you and your family give back to others, but your business model itself gives back to others. Tell me why that's so important to you, Frank.
Well, I think that gets back to something I'll say my dad said as a World War II veteran who saw the horrors of war. And I can hear him saying, he's long gone, but I can hear him echoing back in my mind, what kind of world do you want? What kind of place do you want? What kind of country do you want? And in order to answer that, you have to look in the mirror and ask, who am I? What do I stand for? And if it's nothing, or if it's just to go party or go entertain yourself, is that really what we need as a nation, as a world, especially today? It's not rewarding. It doesn't do anybody any good. But if you seek a higher purpose in your life and define your purpose, I've found that the most rewarding thing, and I think most people would agree with this if they're really honest about it, when you do good and people understand that you're doing good and you really care, it fulfills you and it fulfills a higher sense of purpose in my life. And I think for others that do the same.
I know for me, I had a health crisis, and it sort of put health on my front burner. I know that you faced some health challenges also. How did that change you, Frank?
I would say it's interesting, and you'll forgive a little bit of my voice might be a little harsh. I had a series of strokes, and as did my dad at the same age, which is interesting. And it changed me, I would say, in one way, the way it did my dad. My dad, you never saw him cry. Now, if I see anything emotional, matter of fact, even speaking to you, and I can tell you care, I almost want to start crying. So I've gotten much more sensitive to things. And a good buddy of mine, I don't know if you remember the song, I Keep on Dancing by the Gentrys, a fellow that did that song, I see up at Starbucks here. And I told him, I said, man, I'm sorry. I see something emotional. Now I sort of cry on, boom. And whereas before, and I wouldn't let it bother me. And I thought, I was sort of apologizing for my behavior. And he looked at me and he said, Frank, we need more of that in the world. We need more people showing that they care.
Emotion, I think, bespeaks our humanity.
Yes.
And for me, it made me very keenly aware of the shortness of life, but also how long life is and how much time you do have to accomplish something and to leave the world a better place. You mentioned earlier, on a really interesting note, that you have a passion for martial arts. As a matter of fact, most of your family does also. How did that come about?
Well, getting back to the um, purpose in life, um, one of the things I had gone through, other than a couple of marriages and finally met the right woman I've been with for 20 years, who's got a strong sense of purpose too. Um, I would say it came about through realizing, if you're not in optimum health, how the heck are you going to have the strength and the energy to make it a better place? So I joined a program called Body for Life with a man named Bill Phillips. And he's trained, I believe, Sylvester Stallone, Demi Moore, and people like that. And I did that for off and on for probably 15 years or more. So much so that he chose me to become one of his trainers. And then I really got more into researching dieting and that kind of thing and what's really important. And my wife went completely vegan and convinced me to do the same, particularly after I had the strokes. And within 3 years, I had therapists, doctors saying, what are you doing? No drugs, nothing. And basically, I'm fully recovered. And I actually should be getting a new medical for my pilot's license in about 3 weeks. So I should be flying again at age 70.
Bravo, bravo, sir. As the national volunteer for the American Heart Association, I know the impact that cardiovascular disease and stroke has on our nation. And so the work that you're doing and the example that you set is just really extremely important for every one of us to hear and to be reminded of on a constant basis. Frank, you told me that you're about to get relicensed as a pilot, but what else does the future hold for you?
Well, what I'm hoping, and I could probably use a lot of your advice, I am hoping that to make a video in addition to this manual we're going to put together to encourage other communities to do what we're doing in their community. And one of the things that's interesting, it's not only not just a somewhat charitable thing we're doing, because a lot of what we do is our accountants say, you're the nonprofit without the benefits. But we would hope that those of means that are a lot better off than we are would come to the table, as will local towns and cities. We've been in touch with 2 mayors here, and we've really, frankly, gotten very little or no assistance. And I've spoken to those that are quite wealthy, one over $500 million in wealth. And what I'd like to do is see those people get more involved in what we do. I mean, they could even delegate it. And what's interesting, we keep rents below market rates, so we make it affordable. But we also see, I'm going to say, I think it's safe to say, in a 7 to 8 to 10 to 12 to 15% return on our money. So what's wrong with that? You can make money by doing good. And what better way to do this? And this used to be something my dad would talk about all the time. And I can recall him saying, he came home one day when I was a kid and was telling my mother, do you know that the bank's teller, the chairman, makes 12 times more? And now it's 300 times. And when you have that dichotomy where there's, the upper 1 or 2% own over 90% of everything, you've got trouble. And that goes back to Roman times and up, So we see a way forward to encourage others, if we can get the right tools to motivate these others to get involved more in what we do and make good money while they're fulfilling a higher sense of purpose that we so desperately need, actually, in most of this country and elsewhere.
That makes complete sense. And Frank, finally, I'd love to know what's the one thing you'd like the viewer of this particular video feature to walk away with today?
Well, I'd like them to think about, well, good health and how you do that. Get yourself healthy if you're not. Work on doing that in part very much by plant-based diet, which seems to cure just about everything. And to ask yourself who you are and what you and how you want to contribute. And if what we do sounds appealing, to please take a look at our website, which is bweproperties.com, where we have a lot of this information in more detail.
I certainly do appreciate this time having a opportunity to get to know you, to get to know a little bit more about your business, and really more about your passion than anything. I appreciate the time and the sensitivity that you brought to this subject, and I encourage everyone to check out their website and see if there was a way that you can contribute and become a part of the solution, as Frank and his family would say. Thank you so very much, Frank.
Thank you.